Well. She's been thinking again. Um, so there's this computer science person who I watch. I don't follow them, but their videos sometimes come up. And they have some interesting perspectives that are very tech heavy, though. They're very tech first. And I kind of think they might be a plant. A little bit. But they just made a video, or I just saw it, I don't know when they made it, talking about the environmental impacts of AI. And this person is consistently trying to debunk AI criticism and almost never actually engages with the criticism. And this makes me think of why it is so important that people in STEM learn humanities. Because this is a person who can't see the forest for the trees when talking about technology because they have no humanities background. They've not studied any humanities at all, and it is very apparent. So in this particular video that I just saw, they were, like I said, debunking the environmental impact of AI, except they weren't. So AI and the data centers that are required to power it is very bad for the environment. It's using huge quantities of electricity and huge quantities of water. This is well known. It's also contributing to huge amounts of pollution in predominantly Black and brown communities, right? So, like, look at XAI's data center in, I think, Tennessee. It's like poisoning people. So this computer scientist said AI is not, that was a bug, freaked me out. Okay, so this computer scientist said AI is not having an environmental impact. It's not using more electricity. And the source that they cited was Google. Google said, hey, we used 12% less electricity this year than last year. And cool. I mean, 12% is not a lot when you're talking about the huge amount of electricity that these things use. But also, why on earth would you believe Google's self-reporting, right? So if you had studied history or anything about the history of big business, tech business in America, you would know, hey, I should not take verbatim what Google says as the truth. I should look for independent sources to verify this information. And if you did look for independent sources, there's been quite a few studies about the environmental and energy impact of these AI data centers. None of them are positive. So it's cool that Google's like, hey, we used 12% less. Awesome. I don't really believe that number without independent verification. And also that doesn't really matter because on the whole, AI data centers use huge quantities of electricity that are causing the drive away from clean energy products but back into fossil fuels in order to support that energy consumption. And that is objectively bad for the environment. As computer scientists, right? Like, this is just such a good example of why you need to take humanities, even if you're a science person, because this person is not capable of engaging with the historical precedent and is just taking as verbatim truth whatever the tech company tells them is the truth. And that's a very, I think, common thing for people who are very science STEM focused. They're like, facts are facts and they don't change. However, if you've ever studied humanities, you know that's not true. Facts can be manipulated very easily and have been throughout, world history. So in addition to like people who study the humanities knowing, hey, we should not just take a big corporation's, assertion that this is good at face value without doing any other checking it out. The other part of it is looking at only hyper-specific elements of the issue instead of the issue as a whole, right? So maybe the Google report is true. They did use 12% less electricity. Great. That's not happening in a vacuum, right? And the humanities are good for this, right? Looking at the larger picture. That's happening in an ecosystem where states across the country are deregulating environmental protections so that they can provide electricity to data centers. So they're going back to fossil fuels. They're going to methane. They're going to all this bad stuff because there are so many data centers that need so much electricity. So this is not happening in a vacuum where it's like, oh, this one company reduced its electricity usage. We've solved it. No, it's happening in a whole ecosystem of mass energy consumption for data centers. And again, there's a bunch of intersectionality here with where those data centers are placed and who they harm. They're generally placed in lower income Black and brown communities, and they're poisoning those people. So you need not hyper specifics, you need big picture. Tech science is really about hyper specifics, and humanities are about the big picture.